Hello, she's back. You should say something. Say something to the people so they know I'm not just talking to myself. Meow. Come here. Meow. No, she's not going to talk. Sometimes she'll talk. She'll come and get right in my face and put her hand on her paw on my beard, like pet me. Let's see if I can get her to do it. Come here. Yeah, I just got to rub all over the microphone. That's fine. All right. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with our friend Winnie, who is actually, my last guest. Blanking on it. Boniswa. Right? You guys are friends in real life?
Yes.
That is
family.
Oh, family, even better. Yeah. So this is why I say to folks out there, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, literally tell your friends, tell your family. I would love to talk to as many people as are interested in speaking with me. So it's a great pleasure to have you here. I appreciate you joining me. As per my usual process, I was going to say, well, for people who watched the last episode, they know you're in Botswana. So this is wonderful that I'm getting to talk to so many people from around the world. I think it's as I said, I think in an interview I did recently, this is a wonderful, common human experience to bring us together. Everybody sleeps, everybody dreams, and we can connect on that level across the entire planet, and that really makes me happy too. I love that. So, yeah. So as I was going to say, as per my usual process, I'm just going to shut up now and I'm going to listen. Our friend Winnie is going to tell us her dream from beginning to end, and then we're going to see if we can figure out what it means. So I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Winnie, and my dream started off, we were in a house cleaning. It was me and my two kids. And we had these cockroaches. They came, at first started just a little bit of them. Because in real life, I've been actually fumigating against them. So now, they came again to bother me, and it kept bothering me to think, these cockroaches, how am I going to get rid of them? And then all of a sudden, it just came a swarm of them, and they were trying to run to the other rooms, but they were following us at a fast speed, and it was like they were covering the walls. The walls were going black with these huge cockroaches. And then somehow we got into the other room and managed to lock the room, but they still kept going in, and somehow I woke up from my dream.
Okay.
Yes. So
dreams don't have to be very long to have some potential interesting content. So it's actually it's a nice change for some of those folks out there that see I have 3.5 hour long episodes. They don't all have to be that long, but so it's a nice change of pace to have some that are shorter. So that's the first step, what I call phase 2, or the deep dive. We're gonna go back in and look at it a second time, kind of beginning at the beginning. And you say you were cleaning the house with your two kids. Where were you in the house when you first became aware you were dreaming?
In the kitchen.
Okay. And did it look like your kitchen from your actual house, or were there some things different?
No, it was actually my kitchen from my actual house.
No differences stood out to you? Nothing unusual?
Nothing unusual. Nothing unusual. Just only that the way they came. I've never seen anything like that.
For sure. And you would hope to never see it in real life. That's horrifying me. I hate
It's
creature
horrifying.
bugs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very creepy. It was great.
And that's a very strong, also common biological response we share across the species is these things throughout our history have been dangerous to us, and they spoil meat, they infest our spaces, ruin our houses, and they can be poisonous or stinging. And so we've got this long genetic history of disgust response to creepy crawly things. So she's back. Here she is. This is baby.
Yeah.
This may be a
baby.
this may be a cat heavy video. We'll see. Can you just lay down? I can't do this. I can't do this with you here. She's gonna rub on my pen and make it hard to write. What? There she goes.
Oh, there she goes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, and so where were you standing in your kitchen? Were you at standing at the sink, near the stove, at a doorway, in the very center of the room?
In the very center of the room.
Okay.
Yeah, in the very center of the room.
And where were your children in relation to you? Left, right, behind?
Both were my side. The other one was the other side, and the other side was on the left side of mine. Then the other side was, yeah.
Okay, so they were directly next to you, flanking you on your left and on your right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yee, baby.
People listening to this as an audio podcast, they're just missing half the fun. These silent moments from shaking my head at the cat. So are they boy and a girl, 2 boys, 2 girls? How old?
A boy and a girl.
Okay.
The boy is 17. The girl is 6 years old.
And which was to your left and which one was to your right?
Specifically, I don't remember which one was.
Okay.
But I remember that's the position we were in.
Fair enough. Yeah, and that may not be relevant, but so there's something I do called rattling doorknobs. I just ask questions. Sometimes there's no answer. Either you had an experience or an understanding, or you didn't, and it's never your fault. If it didn't appear, chances are not relevant, unless sometimes the absence of something is relevant. But I don't think. Well, we won't know if that's relevant yet, but. So you said you appeared in the center of the kitchen, your kids flanking you, and you said you were cleaning. How did you know you were cleaning? Just you knew that's what you were there to do, or was there some behavior that was of a cleaning nature?
I believe I was there to actually clean because it appeared that there were small cockroaches that have been reoccurring the past days, but nothing really big. So we're there to clean, and then all of a sudden, it's like we opened up now a whole lot of them. The reason why we are cleaning is it was for those cockroaches that we had seen, like a bit of them that would see 1 passing, 2 passing, and we need to clean up.
So the cleaning you were there to do, was it specific to removing small particles of food that would draw them, or was it there to clean up some mess created by the passing of the cockroaches in that space?
It was specifically to take everything out and clean out everything so that when we put everything back, we had gotten rid of all of those small ones that were there.
Okay.
To do more like a spring clean into the kitchen.
Okay, good deal. Did you then immediately perform any behaviors of a cleaning nature? Were you starting to move items or wipe counters? Anything you remember about that?
We had not even started doing anything, but just there when we were there by the kitchen, I think we're just trying to figure out a plan. How are we going to do this? And then all of a sudden they swam up. And then, came just the normal ones that we know. Then now comes a whole lot now, and that is a lot.
Yeah. So we have a situation where you appear in the dream. You have a knowing that what you are there to do is this spring cleaning. You brought your children with you in your mind to help. And before you can even begin this project, they start appearing a small amount at first. Where did you first notice them coming from? Under the refrigerator, out from under the microwave,
Yeah, they were creeping from down below the cabinets.
Okay. Did they do?
And then when
go ahead.
When they started to increase, they were basically going up the walls now. Up the walls, covering the walls, like in each and every corner of the wall. The front wall, the left wall, they were creeping up to the ceiling, covering up. Have you seen something like from a movie, like where these these insects, they come and then they go up the wall and then like they close up, like it's more like the room is going to be black.
Yeah, that's a fantastic description. That's kind of what I had in my mind, but it could have been very differently. So it's good for you to say what you actually saw. Did it seem they were concentrated anywhere at first, in any specific corner of the room, covering any specific appliance? Did they seem heavier in some place? Yeah.
They were basically for the wall. It's just like that. They were closing up on us. Yeah, they were closing up on us.
So kind of evenly distributed.
Yes, evenly distributed.
Okay.
It was like they were trying to lock us in.
And that is kind of the feeling you got, that they had some intent to surround you.
Yes.
Okay. There are, maybe if you could draw just a small picture in my mind of the layout of the kitchen. Is there only one door in and out?
Yes, there's one door in. Well, actually, there's one door that goes directly at the backyard, and then there's another door directly opposite to that one that goes into the living room. So yeah, they're like two doors. The other one goes to the backyard outside. The other one goes to the living room, but they are all direct, opposite at each other.
Okay, fair enough. And so in your dream, once you had that feeling of they're trying to surround us, lock us in, it was then immediately you leave the room into the house to the living room?
Yes.
Okay. And it never crossed your mind to go out into the backyard through the other door?
No.
Fair enough.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that may be relevant. It may not, but that's what I start looking at right here is in this deep dive portion is if there was no other way out of the room, you took the only escape that was possible. But in this one, something about it is you're staying in the house, even though maybe leaving to the outside world would be, now that you think of it, you had that chuckle, like, why didn't I do that? That seems better. Get out of the house. They're everywhere. Yeah, but dreams are not rational. So the idea is if it did not occur to you, probably that choice has a meaning, that there were two ways and you picked one over the other for some reason. So we'll try and get to an understanding of why that choice. What does it mean? Where did you go? Did you stay in the living room for any period of time, or did you cross immediately to some other portion of the house?
We tried to stay in the living room, but now they came faster, and then they were going up the living room. Okay. And then the living room has a door that goes outside also.
Okay, yeah.
So the speed that they were going at now, we couldn't go outside then. Okay. Our only directions was to go to the rooms now.
So at this point, they were moving too quickly to get to the door. They had cut off
Yes.
that escape.
Yes.
Okay. But the escape, say, down the hallway to another room was still open. They hadn't, say, blocked an opening.
Yes, they hadn't.
So you say you went down.
It's like each hallway? Direction we took, they came there.
Okay. So they seem to, what I'm writing down is they seem to have the intent to block your path.
Yes.
Interesting. So they weren't just acting, say, like a dumb insect would, responding to their instinct or whatever. They almost seem to be intelligent and possibly malicious. I hesitate to say that definitively because we don't know why they're necessarily appearing. Even things that are repulsive, disgusting, they may not necessarily be indicative of, say, something evil or malicious, even if, because we don't yet understand their behavior and why they were acting that way in the dream. So I kind of like to leave those things open in my mind, just in case it doesn't mean, just in case the idea of it being a malicious force is not at all accurate. So I try not to make those assumptions. It may be it is, but I like to, let's find out a little bit more before we go there, right? So hello, she's back. You should say something. Say something to the people so they know I'm not just talking to myself. Meow. Come here. No, she's not going to talk. Sometimes she'll talk. She'll come and get right in my face and put her hand on her paw on my beard, like pet me. Let's see if I can get her to do it. Come here. Yeah, she's gonna rub all over the microphone. That's fine. All right. Let's bring the focus back to you. So the only way out of the living room was before we go there, you had a distinct impression your kids were with you?
Yes, they had
also escaped. I forgot to ask, in the kitchen, how did they respond to the cockroaches?
Kids. We were I think by the kitchen at first we were not terrified or shocked. It was like,
so unfortunately I lost the entire statement you were giving me about how your children responded. That's where it got that's where we got cut off. I don't know if you're able to tell me what you said.
Yes, I was saying when it first happened, it was creepy.
Yeah,
it was creepy for all of us. Like it was like that moment of ew. And then when we ran to the other side, then we saw them following us and then also closing up on the living room. Now we got scared.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll put that down. Then kind of increasing fear as they closed in. It's like this isn't just annoying or unpleasant anymore. Now this is starting to feel dangerous.
Yeah, like okay, exactly
Gotcha.
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did they, your children, did they say or do anything specific, or were they just kind of silently following you?
Yes, they were silently following me.
Okay. So that was their immediate reaction, and you knew how they felt at that time, which was push that over there. Oh, I'll show people, I guess. This is my little homemade phone holder. I took one from a car and I just put it on some leftover pieces of wood from my garage. So I like to make little things. I could go to the store and buy a phone holder for the desktop, but I'm like, I've got leftover pieces. I got wood. I got, yeah.
can make one.
I like doing that kind of stuff. I do. Yeah. Cost me nothing. I already had the parts and it was amusing, little hobby time. And I made something useful. That always makes me happy. Look at my kitties when they're not being annoying. Jesus. Okay, so back to the kids. Sorry. Initially, you knew, you understood, you had the sense that they shared your feeling of, ugh, let's get out of the kitchen. This is disgusting. Did you, when you got to the living room, did you feel that they also shared your growing sense of fear? They kind of understood also what was happening?
Yes.
Okay. And did they do or say anything at that time in the living room?
Funny enough, no, they never. It's like I could tell what they're going through me.
Sure. Yeah. And I say this a lot to people, but I like to make sure every person I'm talking to understands is that there's no difference in the fantasy, in the mind, in the imagination of a dream. There's no difference between seeing, hearing something, sensing something, and just knowing something. Those are equivalent experiences. They are equally real. So simply knowing something in your dream is the same as if you can describe an image you saw of it. So yeah, that's long story short. Yeah. So it's okay if you can't point to a reason you understood something. Simply to say I knew it is sufficient. So we're in the living room and they're going up the walls, this increasing sense of threat. They're getting faster. You run into the hallway towards a bedroom.
Yes.
Okay. Did they follow in a way? Like,
yeah, they were following. And now when we were running to the bedroom, now they were doing the walls, right? Now they were doing the floors, going right at us.
Okay. Now also on the floor. And this is a changed sense of impression that now they weren't just trying to trap, they're actually chasing, and even on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. So you got to, maybe if you could describe the hallway a little bit so I could see it in my mind. Are there multiple doors, different rooms to choose from?
Yeah, there are only two rooms to choose from. It's not really a very long hallway.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, you're passing through the hallway, you're passing the bathroom and and then there's another bedroom and two bedrooms that side.
So there's actually, the hallway is long enough that there is a bathroom and actually 3 separate bedrooms?
Yes.
Okay. And I assume those are one for you, one for your son, one for your daughter?
Yes.
Okay. And then which room did you choose to go into?
My room.
Okay. That would have been my guess, the natural choice, but you never know. Could have been you went to your daughter's room, and maybe that would mean something specific. We'll find out.
Well, actually, we used my room because it was the nearest one from the hallway to get into.
Okay, good deal. And that may have its own automatic meaning. Nearest room doesn't mean anything more than that. It was quickest place to get in and put up a barrier. Maybe not. It would have been interesting. And this is the kind of detail I look for is if you had passed the nearest room and went to another room, that shows something in your mind of intent that a different space was necessary to show you something. But this one, it may be as simple as nearest room, safest, nearest safe place to escape to. So you all rushed in, and I I assume you leading, kids following.
Yes.
Okay, and then you got in and slam the door, and they are all at that moment outside. All the roaches.
No, at that moment they somehow they made their way through under the door.
Okay, so
And
almost immediately they were already coming in under the door right after you closed it.
yes, yes, right after I closed it, went under the door and were going up the bedroom door.
Okay, so they've gone from trying to surround you in the kitchen to cutting off your escape in out the front door to chasing you down the hallway, changing their behavior to come along the floor. And now the first thing they did after they got under the bedroom door was go cover that door. It's like, now this door is also blocked.
Yes.
And did they then kind of spread out on the walls from there and start to surround
And then
the room?
they spread out. Yes.
Thinking, and I'm sure in your mind in this intense experience, you're focused very much on what are the roaches doing. But if you give it a moment and just think about the layout of the room, was anything different? Same?
I don't remember pretty much. I think what I remember now is I was really panicking because now we are close in. And now this looked very dangerous.
Did you at any moment have a sense of what was going to happen if they caught up with you? If they managed to touch you?
Yeah, I thought that they were going after our lives now.
Okay. And how long did you spend in that space? Did you do anything else or almost immediately wake up?
We kept backing away by the other wall, which they hadn't yet went up, until that's when I woke up.
And you woke up before any of them managed to touch you or your kids?
Yes, before anything happened.
Okay. And that is what I call the kind of phase 2 deep dive. We went through and tried to get you back into the dream experience as much as possible so you could see what was happening, get us kind of a more clear image in my mind of the sequence of events, what you were thinking, feeling. And now pretty much part 3, we get into what does it all mean? I like to ask first if while you were giving the descriptions and thinking about the experience, if any connections came to your mind before I make suggestions. Did anything occur to you? Any interesting thoughts or?
Do you hear me?
I'm hearing you. It's still a little choppy and pixelated. Might have to just give it another moment to clear. That's okay. Technical difficulties. I don't know how well you can hear me, but I'm amazed any of this works. We are 2 people thousands of miles away talking to each other almost instantaneously across underwater cables on the floor of the ocean. Unbelievable. It blows my mind. But we can keep going this way, and if we lose you again, we'll reconnect. I'm very patient with all the technical difficulties. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we could just we'll roll with it while the connection's good. You were beginning to tell me if you had any of your own initial impressions, and then it got all wonky. So what were you trying to say?
Yes, my initial impressions were of my fear. I thought it brought about was showing me more parts of me of my fear. That's how I connected it to.
Okay, that was a strong impression that stayed with you afterwards, and then going back into it that seemed the strongest connection. Looking at it a second time.
Yes, yeah, and I felt a bit of how do I explain this? Of losing control.
Okay.
Yeah, of losing control, and And actually, yes, and actually, yeah, fearing losing control over a thing and not having any solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very good way of kind of describing the overall experience. This is something happening to you. You're doing your best to respond, but it's not working, whatever it is. Yeah, very good feedback on that. As far as my own suggestions, possibilities, the first thing that came to my mind is you are having this real life problem that is difficult to solve, and it is the roaches. They are actually in real life threatening the cleanliness and safety of your home. So it is possible that this dream is a one-to-one correlation. You dreamed about the fear of not being able to solve your real roach problem, and that brought about this experience related to your real life fear, where you kind of exaggerated in your mind that they're not just there, they're everywhere and they can't be overcome. So it is always possible that sometimes dreams are directly related like that, and it's not necessary to find a deeper meaning. But we can, of course, always keep looking, and that's just one possible solution. Yeah, it would be like a person is going skydiving the next day, and that night before the jump, they dream their chute doesn't open because they're afraid, what if I skydive and the chute doesn't open? So sometimes dreams are really just directly related to, I'm experiencing this problem. I don't know what to do. I don't have a solution. And then our mind dwells on that in sleep and plays out a horrifying scenario of, what if I fail? What if I can't deal with this? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, just in general, before we look at some other possibilities.
Yes, I think so. That resonates a lot. It resonates to say I've had this bit of a challenge, relationship wise, and I'm always that person that when things get out of control, I fear a lot. And an easiest route for me is to run away and shut myself out.
Oh.
Yes. So and then I get yes, I get that that panic, that anxiety when I feel I cannot control this situation.
Yeah.
But there was a time I was given a chance to be able to control the situation, but somehow I couldn't. Yes.
Very nice. Yeah, you added multiple, kind of peeled back multiple layers of the potential onion that's under the surface imagery, which is definitely where we're going with the whole process. So there's always that surface level of, did I dream directly of what I am afraid of, therefore my mind plays it out? Or is that absolutely true, and it's your mind processing a deeper pattern, which seems to be in you this, as you were saying, this kind of a not being pleased or happy or content with being out of control. That is something you would tend to avoid or push away from or wish to overcome. And then to have this dream experience come and say, look at this part of yourself that is experiencing this thing, using a real life example of a current struggle and exaggerating it to show a larger pattern of behavior. That's tremendously insightful. I don't know that I could have asked enough questions to get us there, but that you kind of, just thinking back on the dream, you're like, whoa, this is a thing. This is happening. Yeah.
And that word that you use, the exaggeration, I think most of the time I tend to overlook things, to exaggerate them. In my mind, I would play them to be so big. I think that's where I lose the control. Yeah, exactly. I know that if I could learn to look at things in not exaggerating them, I could control and maintain the situation. But then I tend to exaggerate things, and then I lose control, and everything blows up.
For sure. I wrote down a word here. It's catastrophize. And that just occurred to me. That may or may not be necessarily what's happening, but that's what came to my mind. So explaining the concept a little bit, there are things which are annoying. There are things which are a problem. There are things which are a big problem. And then there are things that are such a big problem. It's a catastrophe. It's a complete disaster. It's like the highest level of everything falling apart. So our human minds, what are we doing? We are problem solving machines. That's what our brain is. It's kind of designed to help us sense, interpret, and respond to the world. So our ability to imagine what's the worst thing that could possibly happen, that's tremendously useful. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen, back in 10,000 years ago, saber-toothed tiger, whatever. What's the worst thing that could happen if I don't run away? I'm going to die. So we run, we get the adrenaline rush, and then we can actually go further than that and say, where do the saber-toothed tigers usually hang out? What's their hunting ground? Maybe I just stay away from there so I don't have to run. Now we're anticipating the future, putting our problem solving to work to say, can I avoid a problem? So all this to get back around to catastrophizing. That ability to problem solve and predict possible worst outcomes is very similar to our ability to feel fear itself and our ability to feel pain. I mean, these are things that are, it's a funny thing that they are like the worst possible experiences that people can have. I'm in pain. I'm in fear. I imagine things very badly, but they're also the most useful tools we have to stay alive. So that's why they draw our attention. They're so intense. And then sometimes they get out of control. We get too much fear, and it leans over into, say, paranoia, where we see threat everywhere, even where it's not. And that our brains can do that too sometimes. And it's a very, it's like anxiety and as well as the feeling of the feeling of attention being drawn to problems and that we're not paying proper attention. In a way, that's not like the definition, but that's kind of the process that's playing out in our mind. It's that, do I understand this well enough? Am I responding well enough? Can I survive? Am I capable of overcoming challenge? That's kind of where anxiety is. What if bad things happen and I can't handle it? Long story short on that, getting back around again to catastrophizing. So sometimes our brain goes way overboard into that, imagining the worst possible thing that can happen. But rather than viewing it objectively, we get locked into a kind of, the what if becomes so powerful that we can't let go of the worst possible outcome, even if it's not the most likely. Our logic function gets interrupted by that emotional fear response. I feel like I'm rambling now, but just to give you a basic idea of kind of how these concepts work from a psychological perspective, and I probably explained it horribly, but that is and it's very much related to control, as you were saying. The idea that if you feel you have a lack of control, that means a lack of ability to respond to danger, to challenges. Things that are within your control can be managed, can be overcome successfully. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to shut up for a second and let you tell me what you think of all the things I've already said. How does that, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it pretty much, I'm connecting, I'm connecting and to what you've been saying and making sense out of, because what I've just said right now, like the control and exaggeration, yes, it brought me back to pin out and pick out moments and things that I've always exaggerated over, that situation could have been contained, but because of this exaggeration that I make out of fear, then I blow the whole thing overboard, and and then I bring the frustration to me. It's
Okay. Now
it's like
go ahead.
I don't know. It's like I don't understand why the control and the exaggeration. I'm trying to connect to what really makes me people have what do you call these things, survival mechanisms, protective mechanism.
Yeah, coping mechanism.
Seeing that, yes, I'm seeing that as a coping mechanism, and
Sure.
I'm trying to connect how a coping mechanism.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And so more kind of broad theoretical understanding, everything we do, every choice we make is functional in a way, even if it ends up being dysfunctional. It's the intended purpose is we are responding to the environment in a way that we think is necessary, we think is in our best interests. That breaks down in certain cases, say depression and suicidal thoughts, that side of things, that is no longer responding to in a self-protective way. It is, but not obviously. So it's so everything we do is an adaptation. It's wearing shoes is a coping mechanism for having soft feet and hard ground that will stab us. So literally almost everything we do is a coping mechanism in some way. Then we get into that category of things that are described in psychology, put in the box of coping mechanisms, and they're getting a massage is a coping mechanism for releasing stress from the muscles and from the mind in that way. So all long story short, all of this getting back around to look at your tendency maybe to exaggerate, to catastrophize in your mind is itself a coping mechanism, exactly as you said, intended to successfully manage a real problem that you see. And these things don't have to be imaginary problems. Real problems are bad enough. The lengths we take them to in our mind, the worst thing we can imagine happening, is not always the most likely, but it could be useful to imagine that. I was going somewhere with that. I lost my train of thought.
I know what you
yeah, and it's tremendously useful. And I really appreciate your candor, openness, honesty with this, because some people would think it embarrassing to say that. I don't think so. I have all kinds of flaws and problems, and I think that's how we get better. First, you got to see it. You got to say, this isn't working. Now, what do I want to do about it? How do I change it? So it also sounds like you've kind of been aware of this as a tendency throughout your life, or is this more of a recent understanding you've come to about yourself of like, wow, I'm going overboard too often. How do I pull that back?
Oh yeah. I think that has been something that I have always seen, but I think about a couple of years back, it's been a notifiable behavior that I've noticed at this, but I wouldn't really pin out to what exactly brings up this. And I'm thinking it should be probably my experiences, probably. Sometimes we would relate to whatever traumas that we went through, and some are buried, and we chose to forget about them, but somehow they would trigger. And I think I'm still struggling with opening up to the truth of the traumas that I've experienced before, and that would make an understanding as to why.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, forgetting is a useful human coping mechanism.
Coping mechanism, yeah.
Absolutely. Because we can't have, there's like our subconscious and then there's our conscious. Like, what are we thinking, paying attention to environmentally or internally at this very moment? Then there's everything else that's not necessarily hidden. Some things are not necessarily forgotten. We can remember it if we want to. But it's just too much to pay attention to all at the same time. We have a limited what's been described as bandwidth, and we experience that on the internet. It's a great analogy too. Is you can only push so much information through the narrow space of your ability to focus, and once that's taken up, you gotta exclude things that don't matter at the moment or trade out. Well, I'm going to stop thinking about this and start thinking about something else because we've got that hard limit on our ability to focus and pay attention to. It's like, what is it? We can remember up to like 7 digits pretty easily, but you start getting to 8, 9, 10 digits, and the number of people who can successfully keep all that information in their attention at the same time drops off pretty fast. Very, very few people who can memorize pi to the 500th place. That's rare individuals, but most of us can do 2 numbers, 5, 7, that kind of thing. It's an example of mental bandwidth or an analogy for it. Again, I'm rambling. I was going somewhere with this. Damn. There was some, what were you saying? What got me out of that mental bandwidth thing was coping mechanisms and forgetting. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I'll go bring it back around. So it is a useful tool to say, forget trauma. There's no direct benefit to living constantly in focused attention on all the bad things that have happened to us. Some people do, they can't forget it, but most of us, it's actually better we forget it, because then our estimation, our understanding, our global view of our entire life is mostly full of good stuff. And we say, these other things, we put them off to the side. The only danger there, maybe not the only danger, but a significant danger, is when we have chosen to suppress a memory because it is so painful that we just don't want to think about it. But the physiological, psychological responses that have been with us since that moment are still affecting us. And that's when it's useful, say, to talk to a therapist and say, and again, I'll tell folks, I say this before I talk to everyone on the show here. This is not counseling and therapy. I'm bringing my psychological expertise, explaining things, and I'm trying to be absolutely therapeutic. But one thing I won't do is I won't talk to people about dreams of childhood sexual abuse, or if they were raped and they're having nightmares about it. This is not the right format. I don't feel that is ethical, something for me to do. And that doesn't mean if that happened to someone, I won't talk to them, but I won't air that dirty laundry publicly for a spectacle. I think that person should go and actually talk to a real therapist, licensed clinical setting, very focused, type of thing. Anyway, I'm rambling again. But that's one thing I want people to know, is that I take that very seriously. So what I'm not going to be able to do, and what I won't even try to do, is solve your childhood traumas necessarily. But we can always talk about them in reference to how you understand yourself and how that may be influenced this expression of a particular dream. One thing I guess I would ask you is if you have had trauma in the past, and it doesn't matter what kind, and you don't have to say what kind, but have you opened up about that, or seen professional help, sought help from wise elders perhaps in your family who you trust to listen to you and help you, guide yourself through understanding what's going on? What has been your experience of that?
Yes, I think traumas I've had, and I think now that you mentioned it, most of the time through these traumas, I'd find myself alone. Yeah, I'd had to deal with it alone, and dealing with it's like suppressing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very common, and
suppressing
you
it.
shouldn't beat yourself up about that either. You know, some things you're not ready to deal with until you're ready, and when you're ready, then it's time to get into it.
I believe so. There've been quite a number of things that happened, and I found my own safety corner
Mm-hmm.
of protective, and I think that's where the control also comes in. Like in my own corner, I can control anything
Yeah.
around me. And when it doesn't, it gets out of control. I over imagine, I exaggerate things, and then yes, it blows off proportion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And that's actually kind of a key feature of trauma itself. Trauma is something that affects us strongly, generally in a negative manner. That's trauma versus, say, a wonderful experience. That also affects us strongly, but that's good. So trauma is necessarily bad by definition. But it has certain features that are like it's intense, negative, emotional, or physical pain that happens to us through no fault of our own. We could not prevent it. We could not avoid it. It's an overwhelming experience that just hits us like a truck, and it is what it is. And then it's very, very common that from those experiences, people have what is often comically referred to as control issues, which, you know, people get made fun of for that, but we all want to be in control of ourselves. We want to feel our environment is under control, because lack of control is danger, is threat, is I can't anticipate what's going to happen. I can't respond to it. And we get the fear, we get the anxiety. So it's very likely that, yeah, these experiences you had set up literal physical neural pathways in your mind that fire off very easily, sending that signal of, oh, this is like what we experienced that time. This is happening again. I'm about to have something very bad, very painful, and I don't want this. And then we get that, as you were describing in the dream, that panic response of this. So what do you do with this kind of stuff? And again, not giving advice. This is not counseling and therapy, but generally, becoming aware of it, first step. All of these things are fantastic. It's like seeing the landscape accurately in a way for the first time. Now there's still areas that are hidden behind trees, over a hill, but once you see that landscape, you can kind of start saying, if I go that way, there's no road. If I go that way, there's too many trees. If I go this way, it's all uphill. And you can kind of pick and choose your path of how you want to navigate this terrain. And that's where, say, a good friend you trust to support you and talk you through things. An actual therapist is always good. Or that, again, never underestimate the, if you got a grandparent or something who is, they just know a lot and they really care about you and they're willing to sit and listen. That can also be very helpful. Going to a psychologist is not always necessary. They might be best, they might not. But this kind of self-understanding and expressing and problem solving can happen between two people in a lot of different ways. And usually it's fantastic when you have that family support as well. Unless specific family members are the source of the trauma, don't talk to them about that yet until you've come to terms with it. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
Yes.
I was going somewhere with that again. Yeah, I lose my train of thought. Sometimes I have too many thoughts all at once, and they're a narrow bandwidth. I can't get them all out, and then I lose my place. It's like the idea of what do you do with it? So, gathering my thoughts for a minute. Strategies. What you would talk to someone about is how to become more aware of this pattern in the moment as it's starting to happen in a new instance, whatever that might be, and then how to maybe, say, interrupt that thought process that takes you to the catastrophic thinking and substitute a different response, a change of behavior that breaks that cycle. And it's really hard. That's why I was talking about neural pathways, is that as we are growing, our brains grow. And as we, even as adults, we can form new connections in our mind, and sometimes pathways, literal physical neuron connections between fear of being out of control and catastrophizing. That is so strong that it takes a long time to reprogram it to go a different direction. So don't be too hard on yourself if it takes many. If you had a trauma when you were 10, you're 20 now, it could take you until you're 30 to reprogram. I mean, it could take as long as it took to kind of get a bad habit to break it. And not a judgmental bad person for having a habit, but a habit that's not working for you, an automatic response. Losing my train of thought again. Interrupting yourself while these things are happening. So that would be, if I were to give advice, and I'm not giving advice, but that's something I would pay attention to first, is catching yourself in those moments. Use myself as an example, air my dirty laundry, so to speak. I get irritated and then I want to be snappy with my wife. And I try so hard to catch myself, not when I'm being snappy, not apologize afterwards, but to start learning to sense I'm getting irritated. Now is the time to stop this. Do I walk away? Do I say, honey, I love you, I can't talk about this right now, give me 5 minutes to calm down? Maybe that's a good idea. That's one specific strategy that, say, a therapist would suggest and say, have you tried that? Another thing is to say, I'm having this feeling of irritation. I'm going to make sure to choose my words carefully, because maybe you can't always walk away. You've got to engage, but you can focus then at that moment, that mental bandwidth on, I'm feeling irritated, but I'm not going to say irritated things. I'm going to speak kindly, carefully, slowly, and breathe. That's another way to interrupt and change behaviors. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling again. Do you have more thoughts on those kind of general ideas?
Yeah, I pretty much it's just amazing how a dream could actually reconnect back to
isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I've never really thought about it this way. That the dream would be connecting or communicating in some way or the other. So now when we're talking about it and going over it, now I get to see that, this, I think there's always that reminder that keeps creeping, that deal with this. Because, and I think in most of my dreams that I have all the time, it will be like these attacks, and I'm running, and I'm always running, and somehow I just wake up out of the dream again.
Gotcha.
So
this is actually maybe kind of a recurring theme of being attacked by different types of things, having situations beyond your control force themselves on you. You've gone through that cycle in many, many different dreams over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've went. Yeah, that's like the same pattern that it's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is where. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying it's amazing how now I see that the stream, how it connects and how it's been replaying. They say sometimes the lesson keeps coming.
Mm-hmm.
You keep getting the same kind of head and everything until you get the lesson that this is this is what you have to do. And
for sure,
it makes sense.
That's a very good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Sense. Yeah, it makes sense, and now it even makes more sense because I'm going through these shadow working on myself. It's like going back. Yeah, so now when we are talking, I realize this is more of shadow work. That's that I have to do. Yeah.
And there's shadow work, and you say that's a very specifically Jungian concept. I'm a big fan of Carl Jung and his brand of specific approach to psychology. I think that's a big thing in dreams too. He's one of him and Freud geniuses in their time, bringing us to this understanding. So there's two types of shadow in a way as well. There's like your shadow, the shadow side of yourself, and
Yes.
but then there are also within that things in the shadows in you that you got to bring up and look at, which is, I mean, it's like a dual layer of the understanding of shadow. It's shadow as dark figure, the side of us we would maybe suppress or tend to reject, but then also things hidden in the darkness that we need to shed light on. Genius, that guy, Carl Jung. Yeah. No, and
Wow.
I really appreciate
What is the name? I need to look at him up.
Yeah,
He
Carl
said
Jung, Carl,
Young.
and Jung is with a J, Jung.
Oh, Jung. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very good stuff. And I think this is one of the things. Like I had someone ask me, how do you sit and listen to people's dreams? I think it's fascinating. I mean, of course, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do this. But it's also more than anything, it's like a doorway to a conversation, and it's good to have that. What are we doing here? We're just talking, but we're talking about something. This isn't just like you called me up random and what are we going to talk about? Who knows? So we shoot the breeze. How's the weather? We're like collaborating on a project, and that actually brings us closer in connection in terms of like a trust or intimacy type of thing is we're partners in a project, but the project itself kind of becomes not just the conversation, but the road to all kinds of deeper understanding, which, I mean, you can focus on just what does a dream mean, but the meaning, as I've come to understand it, is it's always personal, but then that's always like self-revelation is in there as well. It's like, I never thought of it that way. And now I see myself, I understand myself better. I get to the end of one of these interpretations and people see themselves more clearly, understand themselves more fully. It doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have predicted this. I can never predict where a interpretation session conversation is going to go. Couldn't have put a bet on this to save my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Sounds like a purpose you are fulfilling.
yeah, this we have all kinds of different senses. We got our physical senses, but we also have a sense of when something is meaningful, a sense of when something has a purpose, and when we are living in that or experiencing, embodying that active fulfillment of a purpose that has its own. I almost get chills sometimes, a little tingly physical response of like I did something important. I love it. I can't tell you how much I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have and with me now I understand. Oh my God. With me it's intuition.
Yeah.
Yes, with me it's intuition. I get the sense of getting to know things without even asking, but just that great intuition that I'm gifted with. But now I understand why they talked about blockages and everything. But now it's not working for me because my world is polluted with trauma, and my intuitions can none of it be accurate. I can never say this is my intuition now because it might just be an exaggeration. I haven't really tapped into that moment that I know that this is a true intuition, because I'm still stuck up in a world of healing all those and now clearing off all the blockages. Then my intuition goes, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a great thing too, because we have our logical connect the dots one at a time, building a say a pyramid of truth to arrive at a conclusion. We also have a different way of knowing the world, which is we can't explain it. We just get a sense that something is necessarily true, accurate in a certain form. And those, we rely a lot on the logical side of things because it's a little more, you can show your work. You can prove to yourself, and maybe in explaining to other people how you got to that conclusion, and you can look at whether or not it makes sense. The intuitive side is a lot more difficult because you don't know where it came from. So you can't explain it to anyone, and it's really hard to check your work. It's really hard to say, how accurate is this? But you hit on absolutely one of the most important things, which is, in order to trust yourself, your intuition more, you have to challenge those traumas, assumptions, parts of yourself that would tend to throw you off an accurate, intuitive knowing. And the more those things are dealt with, people would say integrated, because you can't get rid of it. You got to understand it and make it a part of who you are. I went through this bad thing and I'm still here, and here's how I'm going to respond to it, and make it a part of me and change my life or improve my life as a result. The more of those things you're able to deal with, the better and better your intuitive sense becomes, like sharpening the edge of a knife. I love it. I love it. And I think you actually have demonstrated in this conversation that intuitive expression. Like, you jumped right at the beginning. Like, I wrote down 2 or 3 words and you hit the core of what was going on in the whole dream. And I tell people this too. I don't have any answers. I got nothing. I talk to people and help them find the answers that are already there inside. So the better someone is at sharing that information and helping kind of identify those things, the more beneficial this whole process can be. So I really appreciate that. Even just this whole time, a great guest of really cutting to the chase, getting to the meat of it. For sure.
Yeah. Yes. There was a point I was doing counseling, and for me, counseling was never something that I would have to go and I don't know. I've seen people rehearse, or like you're saying, you don't know what you're going to talk to someone about, and you don't know how it's going to turn about, but somehow you're going to enlighten them, to awaken something from them. And it was always like that with me. I would get in and somebody will tell them, I would never give advice to say, do this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Full screen.
Getting to be an old hand at this. Great experience. Now you'll be able to show your family how to use Discord. Like, I got this figured out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've learned how to troubleshoot now.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a funny thing too, is like, well, I'll just jump back into this. We were talking about trauma and integrating it. This is, it's a spectrum concept of negative events. So this was a very minor hassle. The internet drops, but it's a problem. It's not as big of a problem as trauma. Trauma is way over on that maximum side of the scale, but you actually respond to these things very similarly. You can apply this same, okay, I have to accept this is happening. Okay, I don't like it. That's my emotion. What do I do about it? Troubleshooting. Now you can apply pretty much, not exactly, but pretty much the same principles to the idea of trauma.
That's actually very good.
What, you had some thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's actually the way you say that. It makes sense. Yeah, the way how someone can overcome. Yeah.
Yeah, you learn to troubleshoot it, and that lets you broaden it out to, say, troubleshooting similar instances. And where was I going with that? The idea of once you realize that there's something you could do, and this is all about also increasing, say, the sense of personal autonomy, self-control, and by extension, the ability to effectively exert reasonable and productive control on your environment so you don't go to the catastrophizing place and overreact, end up tipping that scale into making the problem worse. Yeah. And this is all just broad stroke stuff. Hopefully, if you do decide to say go back to see a counselor, this is something you can say, you don't have to mention me. But you say, I talked to this DreamWizard guy and he was saying maybe I should focus on this kind of thing in counseling to have the most beneficial effect on improving my life in general. So if you choose to do that, not advice, but that's what I would do is bring these ideas, and you can even show them the video and say, here, watch this and then we'll talk. And this is where I want to put my effort and energy. That might be useful.
Yeah, true.
For sure.
True.
Well, we have ranged pretty far afield from the dream itself. I do want to give you a satisfactory experience in the realm of understanding that specific dream. So before we kind of, wrap it up and call it an episode, do you have more elements of the dream that stand out where you're looking at it and it just is a little fuzzy? You want to focus on that, understand it better. Why certain images, why certain experiences? You may or you may not. Oh, I think you froze again. Damn.
Oh.
Oh boy, am I frozen? No, I think you're back. Okay.
I'm back.
Yes, you're back. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes. No, I think not. I think what we talked about is actually, it makes a whole lot of sense to everything that's And
Okay.
what we picked out is from the dream resonates with what we've been talking about also.
Very nice. Yeah. And I mean, and in terms of supporting you and helping you on the path towards overcoming your difficulties, I want to say this was all you. This was you having this understanding, sharing it with me, and I just gave a little theoretical. I gave you a little push and some theoretical understanding of stuff, but really, this was your journey of understanding, all brought out from inside yourself under your own direction and control. That's amazing. This is another experience to put in that toolkit of overcoming challenges and yeah, I'm going to cry. It's beautiful. I love it.
And I especially love the troubleshooting scene. And mostly, like you say, the way it went off and came back. And in my normal sense, I would have anxiety, I would be panicking, but I've never had all of that. I've been just, okay, reconnect, connect back and calmly. And now I see that, so I did do that in a calm state.
Yeah.
And not overthinking of it, that, okay, it's not connecting maybe because of one.
Yeah, that is good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you start seeing these things, you start seeing the patterns everywhere, and that they repeat, they layer on top of each other at different levels. Seems like this has been a real, almost, what am I trying to say? Mystical experience in some ways, in that kind of metaphorical, mythological sense of things, opening your eyes to things unseen. That's good stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
Very nice. If you feel satisfied with the experience, I don't have to keep you here. But I'm always willing to talk more. I leave it up to the dreamer always to tell me when they feel they've reached the end of the process. So I don't know if you have any more things you want to discuss or final thoughts or.
No, I think I've depleted myself, and
it's getting late for you too. It's almost bedtime there.
Yeah, it's almost bedtime here, so yeah. But
fair enough.
I'm happy with how we went through this and what it brought out, and the understanding and things that I have to look at, especially now that I'm doing the shadow work. This is going to be very more helpful. Yeah. And yeah, so it's like I know I've always known that something is just not aligned and stuff, but I didn't know where to direction. But now this is like a direction, like a guide, like.
Yeah. It's a fantastic
Yeah.
place to start, and it'll take you on a path you cannot anticipate right now. It'll move you forward in ways that are not obvious immediately.
Yeah.
What was the other thing I was going to say? So I've got a catchphrase I've experimented with, but that I don't remember who said it. It was some author, but I think she said, "Follow your dreams; they know the way." And that was amazing to me when I heard that, because in one sense, there's the supernatural idea of your dreams will reveal the future. I don't personally believe that, but I think your dreams show you what you're thinking about, and try to focus your attention on something useful to you, as the brain's always trying to problem solve, so if you pay attention to your dreams, they can take you to a place of better self-understanding. They know the way towards revealing what's inside and letting you become consciously aware of it. So I love that expression, and I think I think that's what we did today. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good.
It was really beautiful.
Thank you. I'm always very, very happy when people are pleased with the experience and feel like they got something useful out of it. So, if you'll hang out with me a moment after I kill the recording here, I'll just say to everyone watching, hey, that's another episode of Dreamscapes. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. I've got a podcast website. I've got some books for sale that are about the history of dream interpretation. You can buy a coffee mug, all that good stuff. I'd love to do this for my day job, but all that shameless self-promotion aside, I'll just say thanks for listening.
Yes.